All right, welcome back to another After Dark, everyone. Hope you guys are having a good night so far. I hope you guys had a good day. So, easy intro here. We're doing the part 3 or the final part of this very long video, but very interesting video. It's titled "The Greatest Era in NBA History: Entire 2000s Recap." And I absolutely love this era of basketball, as you guys know. So this has been a blast. We're about 40 minutes in, and we got about 20 left. So let's get right into it. I'm linking the original video down below, like I always do. It's from Jay-Z Uncut. And there you'll also see the channel members. Shout out to every single one of you. I appreciate you all. Everybody, if you didn't watch part 1 and part 2, I don't know what to say. You know, here we are, part 3, and we're going. So everyone, please like the video. I'd appreciate it. And thanks for watching with me, you guys. Let's do this.
The Western Conference playoffs were defined by intense battles. Phoenix continued defying expectations, pushing through despite Stoudemire's absence. But the true story unfolded between Dallas and their bitter rivals, San Antonio, in one of the most gripping playoff series ever played. 7 brutal back-and-forth games captivated us. Clutch shots, fierce defensive battles, and unforgettable drama defined every moment. Ultimately, Dallas prevailed in a thrilling Game 7 overtime victory, signaling their transformation from perennial playoff disappointment to legitimate championship contenders. The 2006 NBA Finals matched Miami's veteran-led roster against Dallas's newfound resilience and discipline. Early in the series, Dallas seemed unstoppable, quickly seizing a commanding 2-0 series lead. Analysts openly questioned Miami's toughness, suggesting that the series might already be over.
And the Mavericks have a commanding 2-0 lead as they totally embarrass the Heat.
Then came Game 3, a game that changed NBA history. Down double digits late, Dwayne Wade unleashed an unforgettable performance, attacking relentlessly.
Yeah, and I think if I remember correctly from, I think it was Gary Payton who said it. I think a couple of people have said it, but in that huddle, he was like, I'm not going down. I'm not going out like this. I'm not going out like this. He just, that was all he had to say. I'm not going out like this. In other words, it was looking like they were going to get swept. So he's like, no, we ain't going out like this. So then he started doing what he did, and everyone rallied behind him.
Scoring seemingly at will, sparking an epic comeback that altered the series entirely. Wade's dominance continued. He single-handedly dismantled Dallas's defense game after game. He averaged a staggering number of points and constantly pressured the Mavericks defenders, showcasing a level of finals brilliance rarely seen in NBA history.
Yeah.
Miami's veterans provided critical support. Shaq's physical presence remained impactful, and role players like Payne and Walker made decisive plays in crucial moments. Miami completed the improbable comeback, winning 4 straight games to secure their first ever NBA championship.
All right, I gave you guys enough time to get into the comments. I know like half of you just got done commenting. It was fixed. It was fixed because Dwayne Wade got all those free throws, and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know.
Dwayne Wade deservedly earned Finals MVP. His legendary Finals performance permanently etched in basketball lore. The Mavericks left feeling robbed by controversial officiating decisions throughout the Finals, sparking outrage and fueling their determination to return and seek redemption. For Dirk Nowitzki, the pain was profound. Labeled unfairly as soft once again, his quest to prove doubters wrong became even more personal. During all this, new NBA stars emerged. Chris Paul dazzled in New Orleans, claiming Rookie of the Year. Ben Wallace continued.
Oh yeah, he was fun to watch. I had my eyes on him from his rookie season. Those Hornets were fun to watch when he was there.
His defensive dominance, earning his 4th Defensive Player of the Year award. Meanwhile, Boris Diaw's remarkable evolution with Phoenix secured him Most Improved Player. Mike Miller also captured the 6th Man of the Year.
Yeah, Boris had a lot of skill. He was just soft. He was very soft. Defensively, offensively, very passive. But he had a good all-around game. You can't deny it. But yeah, he was not a Amari Stoudemire replacement. They played completely different styles of basketball.
In Memphis, a consistent offensive spark off the bench. As the confetti fell in Miami and Wade celebrated his legendary performance, questions swirled around the NBA landscape. Could Miami repeat their unlikely triumph? Could Dallas respond to their painful finals collapse? Could Detroit reclaim their Eastern dominance? Or would emerging stars like LeBron James finally fulfill their championship potential? The finals had just ended with Dwayne Wade's legendary takeover and Miami's first championship. But instead of setting the league up for a new era, it sent everyone scrambling. Every contender asked the same question: How do we stop that? In the offseason, a few teams retooled. Some doubled down and some unraveled completely. The Lakers were spiraling. Kobe Bryant had carried a broken roster as far as he could. In frustration, he publicly called out the front office and demanded better talent around him. In Dallas, the pain of blowing the finals burned deep. Mark Cuban didn't tear the team apart. Instead, he ran it back, betting that Dirk Nowitzki and a full season of revenge-fueled dominance would be enough. On paper, it looked like the right decision. And Detroit had its own problems. Ben Wallace, the defensive soul of the Pistons, left for Chicago in free agency. It was the first crack in the foundation of a team that had built its identity on toughness, discipline, and cohesion.
Why did Ben leave?
Losing Wallace to a rival hurt badly, not just on the court, but in the locker room. Meanwhile, the Spurs were quiet. Too quiet. They made no splashy moves, no headlines. But if you'd been watching long enough, you knew better than to ignore them. The draft brought in promise, but not much immediate impact. Andre Bargnani became the first European player taken with a #1 pick. LaMarcus Aldridge and Brandon Roy ended up in Portland, with Roy making an instant impression as one of the most polished guards to enter the league in years.
Yeah,
Rajon Rondo and Kyle Lowry arrived too, though they wouldn't shine.
I remember being a big Adam Morrison fan until, well, yeah, we saw what happened in the NBA. But I was a big fan of his in college.
And until much later on. And then there was Adam Morrison, drafted 3rd overall to Charlotte, a pick that aged like milk by the end of the year. Elsewhere in the league,
I can't blame MJ for that one though. Like, a lot of people blame MJ for that. Like, if you guys saw him play in college, you'd understand. This guy looked like Larry Bird 2.0.
A major shift was happening at the league office. Commissioner David Stern pushed hard for image control, continuing to enforce the dress code, penalizing taunting, and doubling down on technical fouls. The league was becoming more polished, more global, more corporate. Some players embraced it, and others pushed back. When the season tipped off, all eyes were on Miami, but they stumbled out of the gate. Shaq got hurt. Wade couldn't carry the full load on his own. Pat Riley left the bench midseason due to hip and knee issues. The defending champs looked old, tired, and completely out of sync. By playoff time, they limped in and got swept by Chicago in the first round. No fight, no answers. In the East, one team quietly rose to the top, the Detroit Pistons. Even without Ben Wallace, they posted the best record in the conference behind Billups, Hamilton, and the emergence of Tayshaun Prince as a legit two-way threat.
Yeah, they were still a great team. I still really liked them, but not having Ben, that was a big deal, man. That's your DPOY right there.
Behind them was a team with something to prove and a player who was about to change the narrative forever. LeBron James wasn't just evolving, he was erupting. The Cleveland Cavaliers finished with 50 wins, but it wasn't the record that mattered. It was the momentum. LeBron was now fully in control of the franchise. His athleticism, vision, and scoring had caught up to each other, and the playoffs confirmed it. The Cavs ran through Washington and New Jersey, setting up a rematch with Detroit in the conference finals. And then came Game 5. LeBron's coronation. He scored Cleveland's final 25 points. He also hit the game winner in double overtime. He made Rashid, Prince, Rip, and Chauncey look like JV defenders. It was one of the greatest individual playoff performances in NBA history. And after almost 20 years, I still wait.
Every time I see him drive the ball to the middle of the paint, I imagine what would have been different if Ben Wallace was there. But that being said, regardless, the reality is the reality. This was when I was a huge LeBron fan. Right here. This series, I was blown away at what he was able to do. If this was the LeBron James that we got, like, throughout his entire career, I'd be a monstrous LeBron James fan. Unfortunately, this was short-lived. But man, it was really just a glimpse at greatness.
Individual playoff performances in NBA history. And after almost 20 years, I still wake up in a cold sweat from this game. Yeah. Cleveland finished the job and
he's a Pistons fan, by the way.
Game 6, the King was headed to his first NBA Finals. Out west, Dallas stormed through the regular season, getting 67 wins. Dirk was dominant and consistent all year, MVP worthy. But in the playoffs, things unraveled quickly.
Oh, no.
They drew the Golden State Warriors in round 1. Nobody thought much of it until game 1. And then game 2. By the time Baron Davis and Steven Jackson were lighting up Oracle Arena, the We Believe Warriors, coached by Don Nelson, torched Dallas with small ball, chaos, and fearless energy. Dirk disappeared. Dallas collapsed, and Golden State pulled off one of the biggest first-round upsets in history.
I still kind of feel bad for Dirk. He had to win the MVP and go out like this. Like, worst timing ever to win an MVP.
In Game 6 in front of a crowd that felt more like a riot. San Antonio, meanwhile, did what San Antonio does, win quietly. They beat Denver, they beat Phoenix in a second-round war, and then they beat Utah in the conference finals. No flash, just substance. Then came the finals. LeBron versus the Spurs. On paper, it looked like a moment of destiny, but it played out more like a masterclass. The Spurs smothered LeBron. Bruce Bowen hounded him. Duncan anchored the defense. Parker carved up the Cavs with speed and precision. LeBron...
I could break it down for you guys. They, the San Antonio Spurs, they played a smart game. You take the ball into the paint, we trap you. Therefore, they're turning him into a jump shooter. And that's the best way to beat LeBron James, is to turn him into a jump shooter.
Had no help. Larry Hughes, useless. Drew Gooden, lost. The Cavs were outclassed, outgunned, and out of time. San Antonio completed the sweep, their 4th title in 9 years.
Crazy.
And Tony Parker finally walked away with his first ever finals MVP. But
don't get me wrong, the San Antonio Spurs had every right to win the series. They should have won that series, for sure. But Cleveland should have at least been able to win one game. Come on, man. If Allen Iverson was able to beat the Shaq Kobe Lakers one game, and Reggie Miller was able to beat them 3 games, I think, was it? Or 2 games? Yeah. They should have figured out a way to win one.
He saw them as the story. All the conversation was about LeBron and what he did, what he lacked, and how close he was to making that leap. As the Spurs celebrated yet another ring, the rest of the league was already bracing for what came next. Kobe was seething, Boston was plotting something big, and a generational talent named Kevin Durant was about to walk into the draft. The 2007 offseason didn't just shake the NBA, it rewired its entire structure. Boston, long removed from its glory days, had just come off a 24-win nightmare. The team missed out on Greg Oden and Kevin Durant in the draft lottery. Hope was fading fast.
You know, I feel bad for Portland.
Nightmare. The team missed out on Greg Oden.
Because drafting Brandon Roy, brilliant. And then to think the big picture of the organization, they're going, all right, we're going to go for a 1-2 punch. You know, we're going to have B-Roy and Oden. Like, these two are going to be the cornerstone for our franchise for the next 10 years at least. And the future is so bright between those two. How the hell was Portland supposed to know? Both of these guys are going to be massively injury prone, because the potential was through the roof with them.
And Kevin Durant in the draft lottery. Hope was fading fast, but then came a blitz of moves that flipped the league on its head. The Celtics sent 5th overall pick used on Jeff Green to Seattle for sharpshooter Ray Allen. That alone turned heads, but weeks later, Danny Ainge gutted the rest of the roster in a blockbuster trade for Kevin Garnett, sending Al Jefferson, Gerald Green, and several others to Minnesota. Now, Boston had a core of Paul Pierce, Garnett, and Allen, all hungry, all still elite, and all desperate to win. At the same time, the draft delivered the league's next generation. Portland selected Greg Oden with a #1 pick, a dominant, physically imposing center out of Ohio State. But it was Kevin Durant, picked second by Seattle, who became the immediate star. Durant averaged over 20 points per game his rookie year, a smooth scorer with unteachable instincts. He ended up winning Rookie of the Year effortlessly, giving the Sonics a new face to rally around. But unfortunately for them, it was too late. Ownership battles and broken arena promises made it clear Seattle's NBA days were numbered. The rest of the
Seattle basketball fans, you want the Sonics back or what?
NBA teams were scrambling to keep pace. The Lakers made the season's most impactful trade in February, sending Kwame Brown, Javaris Crittington, and draft picks to Memphis for...
How many draft picks? We never talk about this. 2 first-round picks. Rights to Marc Gasol. A second-round pick in 2010 goes to the Lakers. Okay.
Full trade in February, sending Kwame Brown, Javaris Crittington, and draft picks to Memphis for Pau Gasol. It wasn't just a trade, it was a revival. Kobe Bryant finally had a front court star again, and for the first time since Shaq's departure, the Lakers looked dangerous again. Phoenix made a splash of their own, sending Sean Marion to Miami for Shaquille O'Neal. It was a gamble, trading speed and spacing for size and experience.
Yeah, that was the end. That was the end of that era. Suns. It was done at that point. It was fun. It was still really fun to see Shaq. Shaq did his best, but that was the end of the run and gun Suns. But I'll tell you what, I got to see Shaq in person because of that, because I got to go to a game, and that was a lot of fun. The guy is 10 times bigger in real life.
Miami, on the other end, was falling apart. Wade was in and out with injuries, the roster was aging fast, and the champs from 2006 finished with the worst record in the NBA. The Bulls collapsed under pressure. They had been a trendy pick to rise in the East, but internal friction and coaching drama saw them plummet. Coach Scott Skiles was fired on Christmas Eve. Chicago never recovered. The league office kept pushing for image reform. Technicals were called more aggressively, the dress code was getting even more strict, and Stern's NBA was growing more corporate by the month. That didn't stop the fans from tuning in, especially with new stars like Durant rising and legends like Kobe rewriting their legacy. Once the season started, Boston made it clear this was not a slow build. They were coming for the title immediately. The Boston Celtics won 66 games. Garnett anchored the defense, Pierce killed teams in isolation, Ray Allen stretched the floor. But it wasn't just the big three. Rajon Rondo matured quickly. Kendrick Perkins gave them the toughness in the paint. James Posey and PJ Brown made key plays when it mattered. This team wasn't hype. They were real. In the West, the competition was unreal. It took 50 wins just to make the playoffs. Denver won 50 games and they were the 8th seed. Golden State won 48 and missed the playoffs entirely. Chris Paul and the New Orleans Hornets.
This is the era that we call the Eastern Conference because all the big teams, all the winning teams were all in the West. It was stacked in the West. The crazy thing is like going up against the East, there was a handful, like 4 or 5 teams coming out of the West each year that could have won the championship because you get to the finals, you just got to beat a team in the East. Like, it's crazy how lopsided it was. There was some individual talent in the East, but no actual solid teams.
As a powerhouse. Paul became an MVP candidate. David West was an all-star. Tyson Chandler protected the rim. Peja Stojakovic hit clutch shots. The Hornets won 56 games and finished second out west. But the top seed belonged to none other than the Lakers. Kobe embraced the leadership role like never before. With Gasol and Odom supporting, he finally had a real shot again. He averaged 28 points per game and carried LA to 57 wins. He also locked up his first and only regular season MVP.
You've helped mold it into a championship contender, and when we thought you couldn't get any better, you did.
The playoffs were a storm. In the East, Boston didn't cruise. They were tested very early. The Atlanta Hawks pushed them to 7 games in round 1. Then LeBron and the Cavaliers.
That's shocking. I forgot about that. How did they go to 7 games against Atlanta?
Took them to 7 again. Boston survived both, but it was clear this was not going to be easy. In the West, Lakers caught fire. They beat Denver in 4, then took down Utah in 6. Then they met the Spurs in the conference finals. San Antonio had beaten New Orleans in a grueling 7-game series, but they had nothing left in the tank. Kobe closed the door in 5, and the Lakers were heading back to the finals for the first time since 2004. In the East Finals, Boston finally found rhythm, but Detroit was still tough. Billups, Hamilton, Prince, and Sheed were all still elite. Unfortunately for Detroit, Boston's chemistry overwhelmed them. Garnett found his groove, Pierce hit dagger after dagger, and Rondo took over the tempo. Boston won the series in 6 games, and for the first time in nearly 2 decades, the Celtics were going back to the finals.
Yeah, I was going to say first time since Larry Bird.
Also marked 6 years in a row for the Detroit Pistons to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Unfortunately for them, that streak ended here. The 2008 NBA Finals, Celtics versus the Lakers. It was old school, it was bitter, it was personal. Game 1 went to Boston behind Garnett's relentless energy and Pierce's scoring. Game 2 was yet another grind. Leon Poe turned into a folk hero with a breakout performance. Boston went up 2-0. LA ended up responding in Game 3 at home.
And I think this is the best thing for basketball during this time, to have Lakers versus Celtics. It was perfect.
Win. But in Game 4, something iconic happened. The Celtics erased a 24-point deficit, the largest comeback in finals history at the time, and they stunned the Lakers on their own floor. That win broke the Lakers back. Boston closed them out in 6 with a blowout win at the Garden. Pierce won finals MVP, Garnett got his ring, Ray Allen redeemed himself. The Celtics completed one of the greatest one-year turnarounds in NBA history, and yet they somehow say that LeBron started super teams, right?
Don't make me get into that. This was a difference between an organization making deals in the offseason versus LeBron James basically planning this ahead. Hey, we're all going to go to this team. You know, which team we're going to go to. Okay, cool. We're all going to join forces on this team. This happened organically. That's why I was a big supporter of this team. The way they were built, it was organic.
Moving on, the NBA didn't feel the same anymore. Boston had reclaimed its throne, but across the league, you could feel it. That crown wasn't going to sit still for long. The defending champs brought everyone back. Garnett, Pierce, Allen. Same swagger.
I love that they got Bill Russell there with them.
Same system, but something was
cool.
different. The hunger was still there, but the energy wasn't. Maybe it was fatigue, maybe it was wear and tear, or maybe the league around them just caught up. Because while Boston held the title, Kobe Bryant was sharpening his blades. The Lakers didn't just return better. They came back cold, focused, and pissed off. They remembered every confetti drop, every celebration on their floor, every doubt thrown their way. Kobe led them like a man on a mission, not to prove himself as a player, but to erase any question about his ability to win without Shaq. This wasn't about validation, it was about vengeance. But just as LA roared back, someone else was forming a storm on the other side of the country. LeBron James wasn't waiting his turn anymore. For 5 years, he'd been growing, adjusting, taking hits, and carrying teams. But now it was different. His body was carved from stone. His mind was sharpened, and his team had finally given him weapons. Well, compared to before. The Cavaliers played with spacing, with effort, with rhythm, but it all orbited around LeBron James. Every possession, every decision, every outcome. This was the year that he took control of the league by force. Cleveland tore through the season. The Cavaliers didn't just win, they overwhelmed everyone. Their defense strangled opponents. Their pace crushed the rhythm of games. And LeBron played like a man, not chasing the MVP, but demanding it. Down south in Orlando, Dwight Howard stood in the middle of something special. He wasn't just a big man, he was the blueprint, a shot blocker who altered game plans, a rebounder.
So for everybody who has the narrative of, oh, LeBron didn't have any help and that's why he didn't end up facing up against Kobe in the finals, no, they were favored to win. They were supposed to go to the finals.
Who dominated space. But what made Orlando dangerous wasn't just him, it was the artillery around him. Hedo Turkoglu, Rashard Lewis, Jameer Nelson, and JJ Redick, all locked and all loaded. The Magic played from deep and punished slow rotations. They were ahead of the curve and nobody saw them coming. And in Chicago, a new chapter began. Derrick Rose, the quiet storm, gave the Bulls a pulse. You couldn't stay in front of him, you couldn't predict him, and by the time the playoffs rolled around, he was already a problem. This postseason felt like a heavyweight bracket.
This era, I was rooting for the Bulls. I mean, once my Suns got eliminated, I was rooting for the Bulls.
In Chicago opened with one of the wildest first-round series ever. 7 games, 4 overtimes, multiple buzzer beaters. No Garnett, no excuses, and somehow both teams walked away changed. Orlando slugged their way past Philly, then stunned Boston. They took the champs out with confidence. There was no fear. Dwight Howard controlled the paint. Their shooters spaced the floor so wide, it broke Boston's defense open. The Magic were no fluke. They belonged. On the other side, the Lakers handled their business. They met the Rockets in round 2, and even without Yao, the Rockets gave them hell. Ron Artest barked, Battier defended, Aaron Brooks flew past defenders like a blur, but LA survived barely. And then they outlasted Denver in the conference finals, a battle of size, strength, and raw energy. Carmelo went toe-to-toe with Kobe. Nene and Kenyon Martin battled in the paint. But Kobe had something more, something cold in his veins, something that never flinched. That set the stage. The league wanted Kobe and LeBron. The ads were ready, the narratives were written, but basketball doesn't care about scripts. Out east, it was the Cavs vs. Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals. LeBron played like a machine. He hit a buzzer beater that froze time.
Gets it to LeBron for 3 for the win. Yes! LeBron James at the buzzer!
But unfortunately for Cleveland, Orlando had depth. The chemistry, the floor spacing, and Dwight was a mountain in the paint. Cleveland just couldn't close out on the shooters. They couldn't stop the rolls. They couldn't win. LeBron walked off the floor after game 6. No handshake, no jersey swap, just silence.
Yeah, typical.
His dream of the NBA Finals were gone. And now the Lakers had one job. They were about rewriting a legacy that had been questioned for years. Ever since Shaquille O'Neal left Los Angeles, Kobe Bryant's greatness had lived in quotation marks. He had the numbers, he had the highlights, but every time his name came up in legacy debates, there was a pause. A reminder that he's never won on his own. Every year that passed without a title felt louder. Every playoff loss added fuel to the fire. Kobe heard it all. And this season, he made sure he never had to hear that again.
Right.
The opponent was the Orlando Magic, but the Magic
crazy thing is he already proved all the haters wrong, including myself. And now that he's not here to defend himself anymore, it's happening all over again, which is disgusting to me. You know, I was as big of a Kobe hater during this time as you can be. But then he won this championship, and then he won it again. And I shut up for the rest of my life, and I will shut up for the rest of my life. When it comes to Kobe, no, he earned my respect, and he's gonna keep that respect.
not ready for what was coming. From the opening tip of game 1, Kobe Bryant played like a man possessed. He dictated everything. The tempo, the flow, the emotion of the series. When Orlando doubled him, he dissected them. When they rotated late, he punished them. His footwork was precise. His jumper was merciless. Every possession felt personal. This wasn't just about basketball anymore. This was about control, about narrative, about proving that the player who once shared the spotlight was more than capable of owning it alone. Game 2 went to overtime. Rashard Lewis and Hedo Turkoglu hit big shots. Dwight dominated the glass, but again, Kobe was the difference. He didn't just force shots, he orchestrated. He moved the ball, drew attention, and trusted his teammates to finish the job. And they did. The Lakers won again. In game 3, the Magic answered back with the best shooting performance in finals history. They barely missed. The series ended up shifting to Orlando, and for a moment, there was real tension. Could the Magic actually flip this? Spoiler alert, Kobe didn't let them. In game 4, he gave the performance that broke their spirit. He scored early, often, and without conscience. But it was the pass at the end that said more. With the game on the line, instead of forcing a fadeaway, Kobe found a wide open Derek Fisher at the top of the arc. Fisher drilled it. Then he hit another dagger in the extra frame to seal it. Kobe had trusted his teammates, and they rewarded that trust with a 3-1 series lead. Game 5 was the final act. The Magic came out swinging, desperate to extend the series, but the Lakers stayed calm. Pau Gasol owned the interior. Lamar Odom spaced the floor and attacked mismatches. Trevor Ariza played like a star in his own role. And then there was Kobe, controlling the game with the same fire he had walked in with back in October. There was no panic, no hesitation, just execution. When the final buzzer sounded, Kobe dropped to his knees. The confetti fell again. There was no debate and no Shaq in sight. Kobe Bryant was at the mountaintop. This was his ring, his redemption, his proof.
Wow.
The 2000s were a grind. Defense mattered, toughness mattered, rings weren't handed out, they were clawed from the dirt. This was the dead ball era, where scoring was scarce, but the greatness was never in doubt. You didn't just watch the game, you felt it. And if that decade taught us anything, it's that legends aren't made in open space.
Nope.
They're made when the air gets tight.
Yeah.
Call it ugly, call it old school, but don't ever call it soft. If you guys want me to break down another decade, let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, if you made it this far, do me a huge favor and hit that like button and subscribe, because this one was a lot of work.
No kidding.
Seriously, guys, if you watch this thing to the very end, thank you so much. There's a couple of videos on the screen right now that I think you'll also love. Seriously, guys, if you made it to the very end of this thing.
That was a great video. Wow, that was a lot. Yeah, I don't know anybody who's calling the 2000s soft. It's everything like 2010 on that it gets just like, it gets Charmin soft, you know. But no, man, I swear, there's a reason why, you know, football is so popular. American football is so popular. Soccer, well, football in the rest of the world is so popular. Hockey is now becoming popular. Baseball is popular. There ain't 120 points per game in these sports. You know what I mean? Once you have that many points per game, it gets watered down. And in an era like this, where it was more of a grind, and the 90s too, to be fair, where it was still almost as much of a grind. Every point matters. Every possession matters. Every shot matters. And that's why you wouldn't see people just like bombing threes, because yeah, I mean, you're not going to get the ball back for another 24 seconds. You know what I mean? Because people were actually like playing out the clock and running offenses. So you had to be a lot more careful on what shots you're going to take. And every shot that went up, it was a battle in the paint to get the offensive rebound or to get the defensive rebound on the other end. It made everybody who touched the damn ball, it was a big deal. You know, and every win was a big deal. And championships were just, I mean, it meant everything back then. And then also, whenever you got a guy who's scoring 30 points a game in an era like this, where the scoring is in what, like the low 90s, I think it was, dude, that's a monstrous achievement. Like I said earlier, when you average 30 points now, it doesn't mean much, you know, compared to what it did back then, because we got to deal with math and ratios. So 30 points of our 120 points average as a team, well, that ain't nothing compared to 33% that's coming from scoring 30 a game. And then when you got something like Kobe scoring 35 a game, during this era. That's just wild, man. That's just wild. So anyways, you guys, I loved, this is the last era that I've loved. And I never saw it falling off a cliff the way it ended up doing. I never imagined it. I thought, like, the way I saw it was Jordan propelled us to this point, and then, like, these guys, they took the freaking baton, they took the torch, and they're not gonna stop. You know, we were going to the freaking moon, everyone, and basketball was looking great. And then 2010 happened. Like, it ends right at the end of this video. Like, after this, it just starts going downhill. And I don't know, I would think I'm crazy, but I know there's a lot of you who are watching this right now who feel the exact same way as I do about this. So anyways, let me know what your thoughts are down below. We'll have a good conversation like we always do. And yeah, my voice is running out here, so time to go. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you all. Like the vid if you enjoyed it. Dislike it twice if you didn't. Subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. And most importantly, is to be water, my friends.